piece of the collection at the National Palace Museum in Taiwan is unique. Every piece has its own history, and every piece is irreplaceable. The highly trained, highly skilled museum workers are fully aware of this every time they have to take one out and handle it.
I believe that everyone who comes to work in museums has this sense of responsibility, seeing the artifacts as part of ourselves. We want them to last forever. You can see how careful we are, the way we open the scrolls, the way we close them up. You can see from this the sort of feelings we have towards these artifacts.
But art only comes alive when it is seen. And books and scrolls thrive on being opened. They were not meant to be locked away in vaults. So the museum conducts regular checks. As an emperor who loved the arts, Qianlong was not only entitled to make a commentary on any art he saw, he was the ultimate arbiter, and his commentary was the validation a piece of art needed to make it even more perfect, even more complete.
He adds his seal in his poems and his comments on other kind of three-dimensional artwork as well. We see a lot of those on ceramics, on jade, and on ivory, and all kinds of material.
But Qianlong's embellishments went further than his predecessors. After all, as the hands-on emperor, the artist and poet, he couldn't help himself. He would actually write on and add to fine paintings and calligraphy by ancient masters. He loved to edit books and would personally add to and correct them, often using the imperial vermilion ink. And the ultimate accolade, he sent these Neolithic jade axe heads, used in rituals thousands of years ago, to his most skilled craftsmen. Jade is extremely hard to carve, but by Qianlong's day, craftsmen were able to incise even the finest writing onto them. In this case, the emperor's own poetry. Nowadays, though, there are no emperors, and every piece is sacrosanct. Ideally, for their preservation, the artifacts would be locked away, far from harm. But exhibitions have to be mounted. Rare and priceless objects must go on display. People have to get as close to them as possible. Again, a controlled environment is the key. This is Mr. Shen. Every day, he sets out on a tour of the museum. But he's not admiring the artifacts. He's checking if they're in optimum conditions. And Taiwan's extremely humid climate poses the greatest challenge. If controlling a small cabinet is tricky, then far more challenging is the housing for some of the collection's larger items.
One of the first things we check is whether the temperature has dropped. If the temperature is unstable, it means the outside air is affecting it. For example, this big case is 5 meters tall. Because of that, it's easily affected. If the internal system fails, we must find a way to control it. We have to bring in air from outside.
The nerve center for this operation, housed outside the museum itself.
It's like the human heart, and the cold water is like blood for the system.
It's an astounding system where everything can be controlled within the museum. Sensors scattered throughout the building report back precise conditions to the control room in real time. Even the position of the sun as it moves across the building causes one side of the museum to be warmer than the other. A crowded gallery is significantly warmer than an empty one, thanks to body temperature. Every part of the climate is rigorously controlled. The temperature of the cooler water flowing toward the museum cabinets, the speed of the pumps that regulate the flow, the rate of the turbines in the cooling towers that cool the recycled hot water again. It is controlled from floor to floor, room to room, case to case. So accurate is this system that 2 climates can be maintained in just one cabinet. An organic, humidity-loving ivory can be displayed next to hard bronzes that need dry air only. But there's one thing that's even more important than keeping temperature and humidity perfect. It's ensuring that the exhibits actually stay in the cases. Put out priceless objects, and for some, it's just temptation on display. But it would be a brave thief who tried to walk out with one of Qianlong's beloved possessions. Everywhere you look, there's someone looking at you. There is no part of the museum not under constant surveillance. It's an invisible wall of data. Every camera sends an impulse to this room, buried safe and deep in the hillside, where it is recorded to disk. Anyone casing the joint would soon be pinpointed by the watchers in the mountainside.
Our responsibility is to protect these artifacts and expend a certain amount of our heart's blood doing it.
The most sensitive areas, though, are the least frequented, the vaults where the treasures are stored. And here, not even museum staff are entirely trusted. Once again, there are rigid protocols in place.
Nobody can just wander in. There are museum staff who have worked here 30 or 40 years, and they've never set foot in the mountain vault.
And those carefully vetted few who are authorized to enter the high security areas can never do so alone. It's a system designed for maximum security.
This rule was started back in the mainland, before the National Palace Museum opened here in Taiwan.
Like everyone here, the security officers feel a special connection to the imperial treasure. They are truly dedicated to protecting their heritage, whatever it takes.
Security has always been hard work. 24 hours a day, no break all year round. It's a watertight security system, protecting the artifacts. This is the only way we can ensure the safety of our treasures. And we are proud of the responsibility.
But what cannot be prevented are acts of God, earthquakes. Taiwan sits in the middle of a seismically very active zone, not the ideal environment for a collection of priceless, fragile objects. Most tremors are minor, and damage to the artifacts can be prevented by quite simple measures. Scrolls examples of painting and calligraphy are kept wrapped in cabinets, which are themselves tethered so as not to tumble in a quake. The objects most in danger are those on display, usually the most prized items. These are also discreetly anchored with almost invisible nylon line. It has all been carefully calculated so that none of these fragile objects can move. And then there is one enemy that the museum staff battle against constantly. It cannot be defeated, only held back. This enemy is time.